I'm Amelia Carter, 29, a software engineer at a tech firm in San Francisco. I poured my youth into climbing the career ladder, starting as a junior coder fresh out of college and now leading a development team. My job is to salvage doomed projects, untangling messy code into sleek, functional software. Pressure's intense, tight deadlines, endless bugs, clients breathing down my neck, but I thrive on the rush of nailing it, that moment when chaos clicks into place. It's like solving a puzzle no one else can. But my personal life? That's been a train wreck. 3 years ago, my world imploded when I found out my ex-husband Ethan was cheating with a coworker. I was grinding late nights, drowning in debt from fertility treatments we'd both pinned our hopes on, doctor visits, medications, injections, the whole grueling ordeal. All for nothing. One night, exhausted from debugging a crashing app, I grabbed his phone by mistake and saw a text from some woman named Sarah. "Tomorrow night, your place, babe." The words burned into my brain. I was gutted. The divorce was brutal. Ethan fought me for every penny, every asset, even though he was the one who betrayed me. Cost me $25,000 in legal fees, and I lost our Oakland house, the one we dreamed of raising kids in. Now I'm in a cramped downtown apartment, surrounded by the hum of the city, trying to rebuild from the ashes of a future that never came. The betrayal still stings, not just from Ethan, but from the life I thought I'd have, kids, stability, love. All gone. And every day I carry that quiet ache, buried under lines of code and forced smiles. If you're still listening, we want to sincerely thank you for spending your time with us. Truly means a lot. We'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and let's see how far this message has reached. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I highly recommend doing it now so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. These aren't just ordinary stories, they're filled with meaningful life lessons that can inspire, teach, and stay with you long after the video ends. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. My family, or rather the people I share DNA with, offered zero support when my life was falling apart. My older sister, Hannah, had the gall to say, "Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with work, you could have kept your husband." Thanks for the wisdom, Hannah. Her words stung, not just for their cruelty, but because they came from someone who was supposed to have my back. After that, I pretty much ghosted the family except for Hannah's calls. Don't get me wrong, she wasn't checking in to see how I was holding up. No, every ring was a cash request. Her son Max needed new basketball sneakers. Her daughter Sophie had a summer camp fee due. Or there was the dentist bill her husband, Greg, couldn't cover because he was too busy funneling their money into his passion for sports betting. I always sent the money, no questions asked. Not for Hannah or Greg, but for the kids, Max, Sophie, and little Lily. They didn't deserve to suffer for their parents' irresponsibility. Each transfer felt like a small bandage on my guilt, a way to keep those kids from feeling the weight of their parents' failures. Last month, Hannah called at 10 p.m., her voice dripping with that fake worry she's perfected. "Amelia, Sophie needs a prom dress, but Greg blew our budget on a new flat screen. We're strapped." I was bone-tired, fresh off a 12-hour coding marathon, staring at my laptop screen in the dim light of my apartment. I sighed, opened my banking app, and sent $300. "Consider it Sophie's gift from me," I said, my voice flat. Hannah chuckled, all warmth and promises. "We should grab dinner soon, reconnect, you know?" "Sure, Hannah." Like that's ever happened. Her promises were as empty as the wine glasses littering my sink from nights spent numbing the loneliness. I hung up, feeling that familiar mix of resentment and duty, like I was tethered to a sinking ship by some invisible rope. My Aunt Linda was the only one in the family who still felt human. She'd been hounding me for months to join the family for Easter at my parents' place in Sacramento, a 2-hour drive from San Francisco. "They miss you, Amelia." "Family's everything," she'd say, her voice soft but persistent. I dodged her invites like I dodged bugs in code, but after months of excuses, I caved. I wasn't thrilled. Dread sat heavy in my chest like a bad line of code you know will crash the system. Still, I showed up, clutching a bottle of Napa Valley Cabernet for Dad and a bouquet of lilies for Mom, feeling like a kid trying to buy her way back into the family's good graces. It was pathetic, but I did it anyway. The house was packed when I pulled up to their suburban Sacramento home, all manicured lawns and faded American flags. Mom and Dad were there, playing the perfect hosts. Hannah and Greg showed up with their 3 kids, Max, Sophie, and Lily, who were chasing each other through the living room. My brother Tom and his wife Claire were there too, along with a smattering of cousins and uncles, all crammed into the dining room with its tacky floral wallpaper. The air felt thick with forced cheer, like everyone was reading from a script. They asked about my job, shallow questions about how's the tech world, but their eyes scanned me like I was some outsider, the single woman who didn't fit their cookie-cutter family mold. Greg, true to form, was glued to the TV in the corner, some NBA game blaring while he ignored his kids' chaos. Hannah shot me a look when I glanced at him, a silent, "Don't you dare say anything." I didn't. I'd learned long ago that calling out Greg's uselessness was a losing battle. Sitting there, picking at Mom's overcooked ham, I felt like I was on display, the odd one out in a room full of people who saw me as a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. Every smile felt like a transaction, every question a setup for something else. I kept my answers short, my guard up, but inside I was seething, not at them, not yet, but at myself for thinking this time might be different. Kids' laughter from the next room was the only thing keeping me grounded, a reminder of why I kept answering Hannah's calls. But even that felt fragile, like a thread stretched too thin, ready to snap. I sipped my wine, the Cabernet's bitterness mirroring the resentment bubbling under my skin, and braced myself for whatever this family reunion was about to throw at me. Everything was fine until Mom asked about my latest project, her voice cutting through the clatter of plates and the kids' chatter in the background. I took a sip of wine, hesitating, but went ahead and shared how my team had pulled off a miracle. We'd salvaged a data management software for a major client, a Fortune 500 heavyweight. 4 months of hell, sleepless nights, endless bug fixes, code that fought us like a cornered animal. We turned it around, and the client was so thrilled they handed out a hefty bonus, $20,000 after taxes. I wasn't bragging when Dad asked for the number. I just answered matter of fact, hoping to move on. But Hannah's eyes lit up like a Vegas slot machine hitting the jackpot. She leaned forward, fork stabbing the air. "Wow, Amelia must be nice," she said, her tone dripping with envy. "Living alone, no kids, just blowing that bonus on fancy gadgets or whatever, right?" I forced a laugh, the kind that barely hides the sting. Not really. That project was brutal. But Hannah wasn't listening. She barreled on, her voice sharp. "Brutal? Try raising 3 kids on a budget. We're drowning in debt, Max needs new sneakers, Sophie's begging for piano lessons. You've got all this cash and nothing to spend it on." The dining room went silent, the kind of quiet that feels like a held breath before a storm. I felt every pair of eyes on me, like I was the villain in some low-budget family drama. My heart pounded, but I kept my face steady. "What exactly are you saying, Hannah?" I asked, my voice low, deliberate as I set down my glass. She crossed her arms, leaning back with a smugness that made my skin crawl. "I'm saying you should share. That money's just sitting there while we're struggling with real responsibilities. You should set up automatic transfers for us. Save me the hassle of asking every time." Mom nodded, her face all soft concern. "Hannah's right, Amelia. You don't have kids. You can't know what it's like to have mouths to feed." Dad chimed in, his voice heavy with that old-school authority. "Family helps family. Your money's just collecting dust, not doing anything important." I froze, fork halfway to my mouth, the words hitting me like a slap. My chest tightened, a mix of shock and rage boiling under my calm exterior. They had no idea. None. They didn't know I'd been quietly paying their utility bills for 3 years, ever since Dad's hours got cut and he called me in a panic about keeping the lights on. They didn't know I'd wired Hannah $5,000 last year when Greg's betting spree left them on the verge of losing their car. They didn't know the nights I'd spent crying in my apartment, grieving the dream of motherhood that died with my marriage, the pain of fertility treatments that led nowhere, the betrayal of Ethan's affair. To them, I was just the single sister, the childless one, whose life must be a carefree breeze, whose money was theirs to claim. I stared at the table, the half-eaten ham and mashed potatoes blurring as my pulse thrummed in my ears. Part of me wanted to scream, to flip the table and let every ugly truth spill out. But another part, the part that had spent years swallowing hurt, wiring money, and pretending everything was fine, kept me still. I felt exposed, like they'd peeled back my skin to reveal the raw, aching parts I'd hidden so well. Hannah's entitled glare, Mom's pitying nod, Dad's expectant frown, they saw me as a resource, not a person. Kids' laughter from the living room was the only thing tethering me to the moment, a reminder of why I'd kept giving. But even that felt tainted now, like my love for them was just another transaction in their eyes. I set my fork down, hands trembling slightly, and braced myself for what came next, knowing this dinner was about to change everything. I pushed my plate away, the clink of ceramic against the table slicing through the silence. Standing, I said, "I'm done." My voice was steady, but inside I was a live wire, sparking with years of pent-up hurt. Hannah smirked, like she'd won some twisted bet. "Done with what? The whole family?" Dad barked, his tone sharp with that old paternal edge, the one that used to make me shrink as a kid. I took a deep breath, the air heavy with the smell of ham and tension. No more silence. "I'm tired of being treated like a walking ATM, I said, my gaze locking on Hannah. "You want to know where my money goes? Half of it's still paying off the fertility treatments Ethan and I went through, chasing a family I'll never have. Not one of you ever asked how I survived that. The rest? It's been keeping your lights on, Mom and Dad, for 3 years, ever since Dad called me, panicking about losing the house. And Hannah, remember last May when you begged me because Greg blew $6,000 on bad bets? That was my money." The room froze. Greg stared at his plate, his face flushed with shame. Hannah's skin went pale, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "I didn't know," she stammered. "Exactly," I shot back, my voice cutting like a blade. "You never asked. You only call when you need cash, using the kids to guilt me. I've shelled out $8,500 this year alone for your emergencies, while Greg funnels your money into betting." I turned to him, my eyes narrowing. "You thought I didn't know? I paid anyway because Max, Sophie, and Lily don't deserve to suffer for your screw-ups." No one spoke. The weight of my words hung like smoke, choking the fake warmth of the room. I grabbed my jacket, my hands shaking but resolute, and set the kids' gifts on the table: wireless earbuds for Max, an art kit for Sophie, a science toy set for Lily. Without another word, I walked out, ignoring Mom's half-hearted "Amelia, wait." The Sacramento suburbs blurred past as I drove back to San Francisco, Paramore's raw chords blasting from my car's speakers, drowning out the rage screaming in my head. Back in my apartment, the city's neon glow spilling through the window, I got to work. I called my bank, transferred my funds to a new account, and canceled every automatic payment I'd set up for them. $300 for their electricity, $200 for Hannah's car insurance, $150 for Mom and Dad's internet. Over $1,200 a month gone unappreciated, like I was just a line item in their budget. My heart raced, not with guilt but with a strange, fierce relief, like I'd finally cut a chain I didn't know was choking me. I sat at my desk, the city's glow filtering through my apartment window, and printed out every transaction, every loan Hannah and my parents had never repaid, $38,000 over 4 years, a paper trail of my misplaced loyalty. Each receipt felt like a punch I'd taken in silence, every dollar a piece of myself I'd given away. I drafted a legal letter with cold precision, stating I was forgiving their debts but cutting off all financial support. Done. No more bailing them out. Then I treated myself to a new MacBook Pro, its sleek silver frame a quiet rebellion against the emergencies that had always derailed my wants. I'd put it off for years, always prioritizing their crises. Not anymore. I texted a Tesla dealership, booking a test drive for the Model 3 I dreamed of, its electric hum promising freedom. For the first time, I felt a spark of excitement for myself, untainted by guilt. The next morning, my phone lit up like a war zone. Mom's voicemail was tearful. "Amelia, something's wrong with the electric bill." It didn't go through. Dad's was gruff, demanding, "What did you do to the insurance payment?" Hannah's was pure rage. "You canceled our internet? The kids need it for school." Their voices clawed at me, each message a reminder of how they saw me, a wallet, not a sister, not a daughter. I didn't reply. My silence was my shield, and it felt good, like reclaiming a piece of myself I'd let them chip away. 3 days later, Hannah showed up at my apartment, pounding on the door like she meant to break it down. I opened it, and there she was, hair a mess, eyes red, in a faded tracksuit that screamed defeat. "What the hell are you doing, Amelia?" she screamed, shoving past me into the living room. "Max can't play in his game because he needs new sneakers. Our power's cut off. Greg can't cover the bills." I crossed my arms, leaning against the wall, my voice ice cold. "You and Greg pull in over $130,000 a year. Your house payment's reasonable, you've got new cars, the kids have every gadget under the sun. You're not poor, Hannah. You're just terrible with money, and Greg's betting doesn't help." Her face crumpled, and she started crying, those manipulative tears she'd weaponized since we were kids. "The kids need you, Amelia. We're family," she pleaded, her voice breaking in that practiced way that used to make me cave. But I was done. I handed her an envelope, thick with the legal letter and copies of every transaction I'd ever made for her. "This is your independence package," I said, my tone flat. "Congrats." She tore it open, her hands shaking as she flipped through the pages, bank statements, transfer records, her signature on loan agreements she'd conveniently forgotten. Her face went ashen. "You can't do this," she whispered like she could will it away. "I already have," I said, opening the door wider. "Get out." Her eyes darted around my apartment, landing on the new MacBook glowing on my desk, a silent accusation in her gaze. She wanted to argue, to guilt me with the kids or family, but the truth was laid bare in those papers. She'd taken me for granted, and I'd let her until now. As she stormed out, slamming the door, I felt no anger, no sadness, just a hollow calm. I'd spent years carrying their weight, believing it was my duty. Now, standing in my quiet apartment, the city humming outside, I was free not just from their demands, but from the part of me that thought I owed them my life. After that night, I fortified my life like a fortress. I upgraded my apartment security, new locks, a video doorbell, the works, and changed my phone number, email, and blocked everyone on social media, except Aunt Linda. She was the only one who saw me as more than a paycheck. I took a week off work, not to hide, but to finally live. I bought a Tesla Model 3, deep blue, its electric purr a thrill as I cruised the coastal roads, the Pacific shimmering under the sun. The freedom felt electric too, like I'd plugged into a version of myself I'd forgotten existed. I joined an indoor climbing gym where I met people who liked me for me, my grit, my laugh, not my bank account. Work became my sanctuary. I poured myself into it, and it paid off. I landed a promotion to senior manager with a 25% pay bump. I renovated my apartment, oak floors, a sleek new desk, a cozy reading nook with a view of the San Francisco Bay. Each change was a brick in the wall I was building around my new life, one where I wasn't anyone's backup plan. 6 months later, I met Nora at the climbing gym. She was a freelance journalist, fierce and independent, with a smile that cracked my heart open. She moved with precision on the wall, no nonsense, no need for anyone's approval. We clicked instantly, sharing bills, dreams, and late-night talks without a hint of dependency. A year later, we moved into a small house in Marin County with a garden and a quiet corner where I coded and she wrote. Life felt like a deep breath after years of holding it in, a peace I hadn't known I could have. Then Aunt Linda called. Hannah had found my Instagram, seen the photos of my new house, the Tesla gleaming in the driveway. Suddenly, my inbox was flooded with emails to my work address. Mom's was pleading, "Amelia, I miss you. Come home for Christmas." Dad's was heavy. "Family isn't whole without you." Hannah's tugged at my heartstrings. "The kids ask for Aunt Amelia all the time." I didn't respond. Their sudden interest wasn't about me, it was about my success, the life I'd built without them. They only cared when they saw I was thriving. The breaking point came when they showed up at my office. I was mid-meeting, debugging a client's app, when my assistant texted, "Your family's in the lobby." My stomach dropped, but I refused to see them, slipping out the back exit. That night, Nora held me, her voice steady. "They're panicking because they lost their safety net. You don't need them, Amelia." She was right. Posted a photo on Instagram, me and Nora on a hilltop, the Pacific Ocean sprawling behind us, captioned #LivingMyTruth. It was petty maybe, but I wanted them to see I didn't need their approval to be happy. My heart felt light, unburdened, like I'd finally shed the weight of their expectations. For the first time, I was living for me, and it felt like flying. A year later, Nora and I got engaged under a starlit sky in Yosemite, just the two of us, the quiet of the forest wrapping around us like a promise. No fanfare, just truth. We threw a barbecue at our new Marin County home, the backyard alive with friends who actually cared, people who cheered my wins without expecting a cut. I was flipping burgers, the smoky scent mixing with laughter, when the doorbell rang. Nora came back, her face tight. "Your family's here," she whispered. My stomach clenched, but I handed off the tongs and walked to the front porch. There they were, Dad, looking grayer, older, Mom, tears already streaking her face, and Hannah, her eyes flashing with that familiar mix of desperation and entitlement. "Surprise," Mom said, her voice frail. "How'd you get my address?" I asked, arms crossed. "Linda," Dad admitted. "We told her it was an emergency." I gave them 2 minutes, my voice cold. Dad started, his tone heavy with regret. "Amelia, we messed up. We want to fix this." Mom chimed in, voice breaking. "Family needs you." Hannah jumped in, her words sharp. "Greg's gone. I can't manage. The kids miss their aunt." I looked at them, feeling nothing, no anger, no sadness, just a hollow calm. "Greg leaving is your problem," I said to Hannah. "And you too," I turned to my parents, never once asked how I survived my divorce, how I pieced myself back together. Now, because I've got a new house, a Tesla, a life I built from scratch, I'm suddenly family again? No. My family's in there, Nora, my friends, people who don't see me as a cash machine. Hannah snapped, her voice rising. "So you'll let me and the kids struggle while you live like a queen?" I gave a bitter smile. "You didn't want my love, just my money. Now you get neither." I turned, walked inside, and locked the door. Through the window, I saw them standing there, not hurt but furious, like I'd revoked their VIP pass. Nora met me in the hallway, her arms wrapping around me. "You okay?" she asked. "Never better," I said, meaning it, and went back to the grill, to the people who valued me for me. That night, as we cleaned up, Nora asked, "Any regrets?" I shook my head. "Not one. Family isn't blood, it's the people who respect you, who show up without strings attached." I looked around our home, the Tesla parked in the garage, Nora by my side. Living well isn't just success, it's freedom. And I'd found mine, untethered from their demands, finally breathing free. My name's Amelia Carter, and if you followed my story, you know it's been a wild ride, one of betrayal, family drama, and finding my own strength. Through it all, I've learned some hard-earned lessons that I hope resonate with you, whether you're navigating toxic relationships or just trying to live your truth. Here are 5 lessons I've carved out from the chaos, lessons that keep me grounded and might just help you too. First, set boundaries and hold them firm. For years, I let my family treat me like a bank, draining my resources because I felt obligated to help. Saying no felt like betraying them, but it was the opposite. It was choosing myself. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're survival. When I stopped funding their lives, I reclaimed my own. You don't owe anyone your peace, no matter how close they are. Draw that line and don't let guilt blur it. Second, your worth isn't tied to what you give. My family saw me as valuable only when I was paying their bills, but I learned that my value isn't in my wallet, it's in my heart, my work, my resilience. I spent years tying my identity to their approval, but when I stopped, I found people like Nora and my friends who loved me for me. Don't let anyone measure you by what you can provide. You're enough just as you are. Third, healing means letting go even of family. Cutting off my parents and sister was gut-wrenching. They were blood, and I thought that meant I had to keep them close no matter how they hurt me. But letting go wasn't abandonment, it was freedom. Family isn't just DNA, it's the people who show up, who respect you. Sometimes, walking away is the healthiest choice, even if it leaves an ache. You're not running, you're choosing a life that doesn't break you. Fourth, invest in yourself without apology. Buying that Tesla, renovating my apartment, chasing that promotion, those weren't just purchases or career moves, they were declarations. I'd spent so long putting my dreams on hold for others' emergencies. When I started spending on myself, my passions, my comfort, my future, I felt alive again. You deserve to build a life that excites you. Don't wait for permission to chase what sets your soul on fire. Finally, find your people, the ones who stay for you. Nora, my friends from the climbing gym, my work crew, they became my family not because they needed me, but because they wanted me. They celebrated my wins, laughed at my terrible grilling skills, and showed up without expecting a payout. Surround yourself with people who see your light, not your utility. Those are the ones who make life feel full, who make the hard days bearable. These lessons weren't easy to learn. They came from tears, sleepless nights, and moments where I doubted myself. But they've made me stronger, freer, and unapologetically me. If you're stuck in a cycle of giving too much or feeling unseen, I hope my story nudges you to take a step toward your own freedom indicators. Freedom. You've got the power to rewrite your story. Start today. If this resonated with you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories that might just spark something in you. Your support keeps these stories alive, and I'd love to know you're out there, cheering for the underdog finding their strength.